We are expecting the first US rate hike in 8 years before the end of this year. François Savary is CIO at Reyl Bank. He thinks that this would be the sign that we're reaching the second phase of the cycle started in 2009. François, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
François, most people, or at least a lot of investors, believe that this rate hike may wait for December. You believe it's more likely to happen in September.
Yes, I consider that recent economic number, particularly economic indicators, are pointing towards a reacceleration in the economic activity in the US. You have a solid market in terms of employment and unemployment. You have some signs that wages are accelerating. I believe that you have all the conditions for the Fed to act in September.
And it shouldn't wait any longer without starting to give negative signs, really.
No, I don't think that it would give negative sign. We all know that we are not going to see interest rates move to the level that we experienced some 8 or 10 years ago. This is not the point. The point is to engage into the normalization process for the monetary policy in the US, and be it September or December, if all the numbers are here, there is no reason to wait for 3 more months.
Now, the Fed balance sheet has increased so gigantically that, well, we can see it on the graph. It's kind of scary. Is the Fed going to eventually reduce this balance sheet?
Eventually it will be obliged. This is something that they have in mind. They are working on the process, but it will be a trial and error process. Nobody knows how you reduce such an expansion of the balance sheet, but first they need to act on the interest rates to give the sign that we are in a normalizing process of interest rates and monetary policy, and second, they will act on the balance sheet. I believe this is not something that they have in mind for the next 6 months. This is something that should develop in the course of the next 18 months, I would say.
And what impact will it have on the dollar?
I think that it's a positive for the dollar. The fact that the Fed is going to really go for a normalization in the monetary policy should support the US dollar. We should test again the 105 level, 1.105 range against the euro, and I believe that we could test the parity against the Swiss franc in the course of the process of monetary policy tightening in the US.
And the effect on equity markets, because they have been rising steadily since 2009. Some people are very bearish. Is that your case?
No, I believe it's too early to be bearish. As I said, we are entering the second phase of the economic and financial cycle. It doesn't mean that we are at the end of the cycle, which usually is the phase during which the bear market can develop. What we need to be aware is the fact that we are moving into this second phase. Usually second phase of the financial cycle means higher volatility. So I think that we are going to change. We had market moving up with quite restrained volatility. We should experience in the course of the next 6 to 12 months higher volatility on equity market. People need to be aware of that, but no bear market in sight to our point of view.
And on bonds?
That's a good point. I think that the bonds remain the assets to be careful with. I think that the people made a lot of profit in terms of bond investment. To me, it's still time to get out of the bond market, to reduce the exposure, and to favor equity at the expense of bonds for the coming quarters.
If the Fed does not hike the rate, and if even more so, it continued this semi-quantitative easing policy, what kind of conclusion could one bear from this?
I would say that it would be negative. I think that there is a huge difference in the phase of the quantitative easing we are in. Remember that a few years ago, the Fed and the Bank of England were the only one who were really doing quantitative easings. Other central banks were quite reluctant to move. Lately, we had a significant change, because most of the biggest central banks are for quantitative easing. The European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, everybody is doing quantitative easing. It's very important that the Fed increase interest rates to show that we are able, through quantitative easing, to create economic activity, and that this economic activity needs at one time to induce monetary policy tightening. If suddenly the Fed is postponing again and again, In the current environment, it would mean that quantitative easing is not functioning. It is not able to give us the economic activity that we need. So I think it would be a very negative signal, and that people would react negatively to a kind of new quantitative easing in the US. It would be, to my point of view, the worst scenario, the worst outcome, because then it would mean that maybe deceleration in economic activity, renewed deflation fears would come in the forefront. So it would be, to my point of view, very dangerous.
François, thank you very much for joining us today.
You are welcome.